Long ago, before the world was as we know it today, the earth was different. The people lived with abundance, surrounded by lush forests, flowing rivers, and bountiful fields. The Creator had blessed them with everything they needed, yet, over time, the people forgot to honor the gifts they were given. They became selfish, careless, and disconnected from the sacred balance of life. The Creator, watching from above, saw the growing disharmony. The animals, too, noticed the changes. Once, the people had walked gently upon the earth, offering prayers for every tree they cut, every animal they hunted. Now, they took without gratitude, without care. The rivers grew murky, the forests became silent, and the animals whispered among themselves, asking, "What will become of this world?" The Creator, saddened by the people's actions, decided that the earth needed cleansing, a way to start anew. And so, a great flood was sent, a rain so relentless and powerful that it swallowed the land. It began as a drizzle, soft and unassuming, but soon the heavens opened wide. The rains poured and the rivers swelled, merging into a vast ocean that consumed everything in its path. As the waters rose, the animals, sensing the danger, gathered on the highest hill they could find. Among them were the turtle, the wolf, the eagle, and the coyote, each bringing their wisdom and instincts to the group. The humans too sought refuge, climbing to the hilltop, their eyes wide with fear and regret. But even the highest hill was not safe. The waters continued to rise, lapping at their feet. The animals turned to the turtle, who was known for his patience and steady nature. "Turtle," they asked, "what can we do to survive this flood? The earth we know is gone." The turtle thought for a long time. Finally, he said, "The earth is not gone. It is hidden beneath the water. If we can bring it back to the surface, we can rebuild." The animals nodded, but a question remained. Who would be brave enough to dive into the depths to retrieve the earth? The beaver stepped forward first. "I am strong and swift in the water," he said. "I will dive." With a splash, the beaver disappeared beneath the waves. The others waited, watching the surface, but the beaver did not return. The animals bowed their heads, mourning his loss. Next, the loon volunteered. "I am a bird of the water," she said. "I will find the earth." She dove gracefully, her sleek body cutting through the waves, but the depths were too great, and after a long time she surfaced, gasping for air. One by one, other animals tried, the otter, the muskrat, the frog, but none could reach the bottom. The animals began to despair. If none could retrieve the earth, what would become of them? Finally, the turtle spoke. "I am slow, and I am not strong, but I will try. For the sake of all, I will dive." The animals watched as the turtle slipped into the water and disappeared. Time passed, longer than with any of the others. The waves rippled, but the turtle did not surface. When the animals had nearly given up hope, the turtle's shell broke through the water. He was weak and gasping, but in his claw was a tiny clump of wet earth. The animals cheered, their spirits lifted. "The earth!" they cried. "The turtle has brought it back." The eagle, with his sharp eyes and powerful wings, took the earth in his talons. "We must find a place to spread it, to let it grow," he said. He flew high above the water, searching for a safe spot. Far in the distance he saw the faint outline of a small island, barely rising above the floodwaters. The eagle returned and led the group to the island. There, the animals and the few surviving humans worked together to spread the earth. The Creator saw their efforts and was pleased. The rains began to slow and the waters receded, revealing the land beneath. As the earth dried, plants began to sprout from the soil the turtle had brought. Trees grew tall once more, and rivers carved their paths through the land. The animals and humans, humbled by their survival, vowed to live in harmony with one another and with the earth. The Creator spoke to them, saying, "You have been given a second chance. Remember this flood and the lessons it carries. Walk gently upon the earth and honor all life as sacred." The turtle, though weary, was celebrated as a hero. From that day forward, many tribes revered the turtle as a symbol of perseverance and the foundation of the world itself. Long ago, the world was shrouded in cold and darkness. The winters were brutal, the days short, and the nights endless. People and animals struggled to survive, their bodies trembling in the bitter chill. They had no fire to warm their homes, no flames to cook their food, and no light to banish the oppressive dark. The people pleaded for help, but fire was far away, kept by the fire spirits who lived high in the mountains. These spirits, fierce and jealous, hoarded the fire, letting no one else near it. The people gathered in despair, shivering and thin. "We cannot endure another winter like this," they said. "Someone must bring us fire." Coyote, known for his cunning and boldness, stepped forward. His golden eyes gleamed with determination. "I will get the fire," he declared. "No one is as clever as I am. Trust me to do this." The people were uncertain. Coyote was clever, yes, but also reckless and prone to trouble. Still, they had no better plan. Reluctantly, they agreed. "Very well, Coyote," they said. "Bring us fire, but be careful. The fire spirits are powerful." Coyote set out at once, climbing the icy slopes of the mountain where the fire spirits lived. He moved stealthily, his grey coat blending with the shadows. As he neared their lair, he saw them gathered around a roaring fire. The spirits were tall and imposing, their eyes glowing like embers and their laughter echoing through the peaks. Coyote watched from a distance, studying them. He knew that brute strength would not win the fire. This would require wit and deception. After some thought, he trotted into the clearing, wagging his tail and grinning broadly. "Greetings, mighty spirits," he called. "I have heard of your great power and your magnificent fire. I could not resist coming to see it for myself." The fire spirits paused, startled by his audacity. But Coyote's words flattered them, and they were pleased by his apparent admiration. "What do you want, little Coyote?" one of them asked. "I am cold," Coyote replied, shivering dramatically. "I thought, surely, such generous and powerful beings would let a humble traveler warm himself by their fire." The spirits laughed, their pride swelling. "Very well," they said. "You may sit by the fire, but do not touch it. This fire is ours." Coyote nodded obediently and settled near the flames. For several days he stayed with the spirits, entertaining them with his stories and antics. He made them laugh with his clever tricks, and they grew to trust him, believing he posed no threat. One night, while the spirits were drowsy and distracted, Coyote saw his chance. Quick as lightning, he grabbed a burning stick from the fire and bolted out of the lair. The fire spirits roared in fury. "Thief!" they shouted, leaping to their feet. Their fiery eyes lit up the darkness as they gave chase, their rage turning the air hot and thick with smoke. Coyote ran as fast as his legs could carry him, the burning stick clenched tightly in his jaws. But the spirits were gaining on him, their fiery breath scorching the ground behind him. As the fire spirits closed in, Coyote called out for help. "Friends, the fire must reach the people. Take it and run." The squirrel was the first to respond. "Give it to me," he cried. Coyote passed the stick to the squirrel, who darted up a tree, leaping from branch to branch. The spirits howled in frustration and pursued him, but the flames singed the squirrel's tail, curling it permanently and burning his back, leaving the marks his descendants still bear. The squirrel, exhausted, passed the fire to the frog. The frog grabbed the stick and dove into a stream, swimming furiously. The water protected him from the spirits, but the flames burned his mouth. leaving it raw and red, a mark that all frogs carry to this day. Finally, the fire was passed to the woodpecker. The bird soared high into the sky, far above the spirit's reach. The flames licked at his head, singeing his feathers and leaving them bright red. But the woodpecker held on, determined to deliver the fire. At last, the woodpecker reached the valley where the people were waiting. He dropped the burning stick to the ground, and the people quickly built a great fire, feeding it with wood and brush. Coyote arrived shortly after, his fur singed but his eyes gleaming with triumph. "Fire is yours now," he said. "Use it wisely and always remember the sacrifices that brought it to you." The people gathered around the fire, their faces glowing with warmth and gratitude. They sang songs of thanks to Coyote, the squirrel, the frog, and the woodpecker, whose bravery had saved them all. From that day forward, fire brought light, warmth, and life to the people, a sacred gift they vowed to honor. This is the story of Coyote and the monster. Long ago, a terrible monster roamed the land. It was a creature of immense size, its body as large as a mountain, and its breath as hot as fire. The monster devoured everything in its path: people, animals, trees, even rivers. Wherever it went, life disappeared, leaving behind desolation and silence. Villages were abandoned, and the animals hid in the deepest forests, afraid of its insatiable hunger. The land grew still, its once vibrant energy drained by the monster's relentless destruction. Among the scattered survivors was Coyote, known for his cunning and bravery, though some would call it recklessness. When Coyote saw the devastation, he decided it was time to act. "This monster has taken enough," he declared. "I will stop it and free the people and animals from its terror." Though others doubted him, Coyote was undeterred. He set off on his journey, traveling across the barren land, through scorched forests and over dry riverbeds, until he reached the monster's lair. It was a dark, cavernous mouth carved into the side of a mountain, and the air reeked of decay. The ground trembled with the monster's breath, each exhale a reminder of its power. Coyote sat just outside the entrance thinking. Charging in head first would mean certain death. Instead, he decided to rely on his wits. With a grin, he began to sing. His voice echoed into the cavern, weaving a melody that was both haunting and enchanting. The monster stirred, its curiosity piqued by the sound. Slowly, it emerged from its lair, its massive body blocking out the sky as it loomed over Coyote. "Who dares to come near me?" The monster rumbled, its voice shaking the earth. "Why are you here?" Coyote wagged his tail and bowed his head, masking his fear with charm. "Oh, great and powerful one," he said, his tone smooth and humble. "I am but a wandering traveler who has heard of your strength and magnificence. I wish to serve you. Let me sing songs and tell stories to honor your greatness." The monster, flattered by Coyote's words, tilted its massive head. "You wish to serve me?" it asked, its voice filled with suspicion but also intrigue. Coyote nodded solemnly. "Yes, mighty one. I can entertain you while you feast, bringing joy to your ears as you fill your belly." Pleased with the idea, the monster agreed. "Very well," it said. "Enter my mouth, and you may sing your songs from within." Coyote stepped forward without hesitation, his tail flicking behind him. He walked into the monster's enormous mouth, careful to avoid its sharp teeth, and journeyed deep into its belly. Inside, he found a terrible sight. The remains of the monster's victims were scattered everywhere, and many animals and people were still alive, trapped and trembling, their eyes lit up with hope when they saw Coyote. "Do not be afraid," he whispered. I will free you all." While the monster lay outside, waiting for Coyote's song, he began his plan. He gathered scraps of wood and bones, building a fire in the depths of the monster's stomach. He worked quickly and quietly, feeding the flames until they grew hotter and hotter. The fire began to spread, and the monster stirred uneasily. "What are you doing in there?" it growled, its voice echoing through its body. "I am preparing the greatest song of all," Coyote called back, his tone calm and convincing. "Be patient." But the fire burned fiercely now, and the monster began to thrash in pain. It roared and stomped, trying to extinguish the flames, but it was too late. The fire consumed it from within, and with one final deafening roar, the monster collapsed to the ground, its body splitting open. As the monster fell, the people and animals it had swallowed poured out, alive and unharmed. They blinked in the sunlight, amazed to see the sky again after so long. Rivers began to flow once more, and the forest started to breathe with life. Coyote stood atop the remains of the monster, his fur singed but his grin wide. "You are free now," he said to the people and animals. "The monster is no more." The survivors gathered around him, their hearts filled with gratitude. They sang songs of praise for Coyote's bravery and cleverness, though some shook their heads at his recklessness. From that day on, the land began to heal. Villages were rebuilt, the animals roamed freely, and the world returned to its vibrant, harmonious self. This is the story of Coyote and the monster. It is a tale of courage and cunning, a reminder that even the greatest challenges can be overcome with determination and ingenuity. Yet it also teaches us to respect the delicate balance of the world, for even the cleverest tricks can have unintended consequences if we do not tread carefully. This is the story of the creation of Turtle Island. In the time before time, when the world as we know it did not exist, there was only water. Endless, churning waters stretched in all directions, and above them was the vast sky. There was no land for people or animals to live upon, only the ceaseless waves and the spirits that drifted between sky and sea. High above the waters was Skyland, a realm of light and beauty where the sky people lived in harmony. In this land there grew a sacred tree, its roots stretching deep into the earth of Skyland and its branches reaching toward the heavens. This tree was the source of all life and was held in reverence by all who dwelled there. One day, the Sky Chief's wife, known as Sky Woman, found herself drawn to the sacred tree. She was heavy with child, and her heart was full of curiosity and longing. But when she approached the tree, she noticed that something was wrong. The ground around its roots had begun to crack, and the tree seemed to be weakening. Sky Woman knelt beside it, her hands brushing its bark, when suddenly the earth beneath her gave way. With a gasp, she fell through the opening and into the endless water below. As she fell, Sky Woman grasped at the air, clutching a handful of seeds from the sacred tree. The winds carried her gently down, and the animals of the water saw her descent. They gathered quickly, knowing she would need help. The birds were the first to reach her, their wings beating furiously as they flew beneath her to catch her. Together, they held her aloft, preventing her from sinking into the water. But the birds could not hold her forever. "We must find a place for her to rest," they said. The great animals of the water, turtle, otter, beaver, and loon, swam forward, listening to the bird's plea. Turtle, strong and steady, spoke first. "I will bear her on my back," he said. The other animals agreed, and Sky Woman was gently lowered onto Turtle's broad shell. She rested there, gazing out at the endless water, grateful for their kindness. Though she was safe, Sky Woman knew that she and her unborn child could not survive without land. "We must bring up earth from beneath the water," the animals said. "With earth, we can create a place where she can live." One by one, the animals dove into the depths, determined to bring back earth from the bottom of the water. First went Otter, sleek and strong, diving deep into the cold, dark waters. He swam farther than any of them had thought possible, but he returned empty-pawed, gasping for air. Next went Beaver, whose powerful tail propelled him far below. But even he could not reach the bottom, and he too surfaced, exhausted. Finally, Loon tried, her graceful body cutting through the waves as she dove deeper than the others. But even the fearless Loon could not reach the bottom, and she emerged breathless, shaking her head. The animals despaired. If even their strongest swimmers could not reach the earth, how could they save Sky Woman? Then Turtle spoke again. "I am not fast or strong, but I will try," he said. The animals watched anxiously as Turtle sank slowly into the water, disappearing from sight. Time passed, longer than it had with any of the others. They began to fear he would not return. But at last, Turtle's head broke the surface. In his claw was a tiny clump of wet earth. The animals cheered, their spirits lifted. Sky Woman took the earth from Turtle's claw and placed it on his back. She sprinkled it with the seeds she had carried from the sacred tree, and as she sang a song of creation, the earth began to grow. It spread across Turtle's shell, forming hills, valleys, rivers, and forests. The seeds sprouted, giving life to plants and trees. Soon, there was land vast enough for Sky Woman and her child, and for all the creatures of the water, sky, and earth. Sky Woman walked upon this new land, which the animals called Turtle Island, and gave thanks to the animals who had saved her. From her child came the first people who lived in harmony with the animals and plants, always remembering the sacrifice and cooperation that had created their home. This is the story of the creation of Turtle Island. It teaches us the importance of unity, perseverance, and respect for all living things. It reminds us that even the smallest contributions, like the tiny clump of earth, can create something vast and enduring when nurtured with care. This is the story of the White Buffalo Woman. Long ago, the Lakota people lived in harmony with the earth, following the rhythms of the seasons and relying on the buffalo for their survival. The buffalo provided everything they needed: food, clothing, shelter, and tools. Yet, there came a time when the people began to struggle. The buffalo became scarce, and the people felt lost and disconnected. They prayed to Wakantanka, the Great Spirit, for guidance. One day, 2 young Lakota hunters were sent out to search for buffalo. They traveled far and wide across the plains, but they found nothing. As they crested a hill, they saw a figure approaching in the distance. At first, they thought it was a buffalo, but as they came closer, they realized it was a woman. She was dressed in pure white buckskin that shimmered in the sunlight, and her presence radiated an otherworldly power. She carried a bundle in her arms, cradling it as if it held something precious. One of the hunters, overwhelmed by her beauty, was overcome by impure thoughts. "This woman is not of this world," the other hunter warned, but his companion ignored him and approached her with disrespectful intentions. As he reached out, a cloud of mist enveloped him, and when it cleared, he was nothing but a pile of bones at her feet. The second hunter fell to his knees, trembling with awe and reverence. The woman smiled gently at him. "Do not be afraid," she said. "I bring a gift to your people." The woman instructed the hunter to return to his village and prepare his people for her arrival. She told him to build a sacred altar where she would share her teachings. The hunter obeyed, running back to his village and telling the elders of the miraculous being he had encountered. The people gathered in anticipation, preparing as she had instructed. Soon, the white buffalo woman arrived, walking gracefully into their circle. Her presence filled the air with a sense of peace and reverence. She placed the bundle she carried on the sacred altar and began to speak. "I have come from Wakan Tanka, the Great Spirit, to bring you a gift," she said. Unwrapping the bundle, she revealed a sacred pipe, known as the Chanunpa. The pipe was beautifully crafted, its bowl made of red stone to represent the earth, and its stem carved from wood to symbolize all that grows upon it. She explained that the pipe was a bridge between the people and the Great Spirit, a tool for prayer and a reminder of their connection to all living things. The white buffalo woman taught the people how to use the pipe in ceremony. She told them to honor it as sacred and to use it to pray for harmony, health, and unity. She also shared with them the 7 sacred ceremonies that would guide their way of life, teaching them to live in balance with the earth and each other. The people listened intently, their hearts filled with gratitude and a renewed sense of purpose. When her teachings were complete, the white buffalo woman prepared to leave. She told the people that she would always watch over them and that they should care for the pipe and their connection to the Great Spirit. As she walked away, she paused and looked back at the people. She then lay on the ground and transformed into a white buffalo calf before disappearing into the horizon. The people were astonished and understood that her transformation was a sign of hope and renewal. The Lakota held her teachings close to their hearts, passing them down through generations. They honored the sacred pipe and remembered the lessons of the white buffalo woman, living in harmony with the earth and with each other. The appearance of a white buffalo calf became a rare and sacred event, a reminder of her promise and the blessings of the Great Spirit. This is the story of the white buffalo woman. It is a tale of guidance, renewal, and spiritual connection. It reminds us of the importance of respect, humility, and the sacred bond between humanity and the natural world. This is the story of how Raven stole the sun. Long ago, the world was cloaked in darkness. The sky held no sun, moon, or stars, and the people lived in perpetual night. They stumbled through the shadows, unable to see the beauty of the world around them. The animals, too, struggled without light, their lives dimmed by the endless gloom. Far away, in a house at the edge of the world, an old man kept the light locked away. He was a powerful chief, and he hoarded the light in a box, refusing to share it with anyone. The people begged him to release the light, but the old man ignored their pleas, content to keep it for himself. Among the animals was Raven, a clever and mischievous trickster. Raven was known for his cunning, and though his actions often caused chaos, his heart was often in the right place. When Raven saw how the people and animals suffered in the darkness, he decided to act. "I will steal the light," he said, his sharp eyes gleaming with determination. "The world belongs to all, and the light must be shared." Raven flew far and wide, searching for the old man's house. When he finally found it, he perched in a tree and watched, formulating a plan. The old man lived alone with his daughter, a beautiful maiden who carried water from the stream each morning. Raven realized that to get inside he would need to disguise himself. Calling upon his powers, Raven transformed into a single pine needle and floated gently down into the maiden's water bucket. She carried the bucket back to the house, unaware of Raven's presence. When she drank from the bucket, she swallowed the pine needle, and soon she discovered she was with child. The old man was overjoyed to have a grandson, and when the baby was born, he doted on him, unaware of Raven's true form. As the old man's grandson, Raven was given free reign of the house. He watched carefully, learning where the light was hidden. It was kept in a series of nested boxes, each smaller than the last, and the old man guarded it jealously. Raven cried and wailed like any baby, and the old man, desperate to quiet him, would give him anything he wanted. One day, Raven began crying for the box of light. "Hush, my grandson," the old man said. "You cannot have that." But Raven would not be consoled. His cries grew louder and louder until they echoed through the house. Finally, the old man relented. "Very well," he said, "but only for a moment." He opened the largest box and handed it to Raven, who immediately stopped crying. Pleased by the silence, the old man let his guard down, and one by one Raven demanded the smaller boxes, crying until he received each one. At last, he held the final box, the one that contained the light. Raven waited until the old man was distracted, then transformed back into his true form. With a sharp beak, he tore open the box, releasing the light. The brilliant glow filled the house, illuminating every corner. Raven grasped the light in his beak and flew out the door, soaring into the sky. The old man shouted in rage, running after Raven, but it was too late. Raven carried the light high above the earth, where he broke it into pieces. He threw the largest piece into the sky, creating the sun, whose warm rays spread across the land. The second piece became the moon, its soft glow lighting the nights. The smallest fragments scattered into the darkness, becoming the stars that twinkled overhead. The world was transformed. The people and animals rejoiced as they saw the sun for the first time, its golden light revealing the beauty of the earth. The moon and stars brought comfort to the nights, and the world was no longer shrouded in darkness. Though Raven's feathers had been burned black by the light's heat, he was proud of what he had done. His cleverness had brought light to the world, and for this he was celebrated as a hero. This is the story of how Raven stole the sun. It is a tale of courage, resourcefulness, and the belief that the gifts of the world are meant to be shared. It reminds us that even the smallest and most unlikely among us can bring great change. This is the story of Sedna, the mother of the sea. In the beginning, when the world was young, the seas were vast and wild, ruled by spirits as ancient as time. Sedna, a beautiful young woman, lived in a small village by the ocean with her father, a skilled hunter. Her beauty was unmatched, with long black hair and eyes that mirrored the depths of the sea. Yet, Sedna was as strong-willed as she was beautiful. Many suitors came to ask for her hand, bringing gifts of fish, furs, and treasures, but she dismissed them all. "None are worthy of me," she would say, her voice sharp with defiance. Her father grew frustrated. "Sedna, you cannot stay with me forever," he said. "You must choose a husband and build a family of your own." But Sedna ignored his words, content to live beside the ocean, where the waves crashed against the shore and the salty wind filled the air. One day, a stranger arrived in the village, draped in fine furs and adorned with shimmering shells. He approached Sedna with a voice as smooth as the tide. "Come with me," he said, "and I will give you a life of riches and comfort. My home is a place of beauty, and you will want for nothing." Sedna, tempted by his promises and the glimmer of wealth, agreed. She left her father's house and boarded the stranger's kayak, paddling across the open sea to what she believed would be a paradise. But Sedna had been deceived. The stranger was no man but a powerful bird spirit in disguise. When they arrived at his island, she found only a barren, wind-swept rock surrounded by cold, dark waters. There were no treasures, no comforts, only scraps of raw fish and the harsh winds. The bird spirit's talons clicked menacingly as he barked commands, treating her as a captive rather than a wife. Sedna wept, her cries carried by the wind across the endless ocean. Her father, hearing her sorrow, was overcome with guilt and vowed to save her. He paddled his kayak to the island under the cover of night. Sedna, overjoyed to see him, climbed into the kayak, and together they began their journey home. But the bird spirit awoke and discovered their escape. With a screech that split the sky, he flapped his enormous wings and summoned a violent storm. The sea churned with fury, waves crashing high and winds howling with rage. As the storm threatened to capsize the kayak, Sedna's father grew desperate. "The spirits are angry," he cried, fearing for his own life. He made a terrible choice. Gripping his paddle, he pushed Sedna overboard, hoping to appease the raging sea. Sedna clung to the side of the kayak, her fingers gripping the edge with all her strength. "Father, help me," she pleaded, her voice rising above the storm. But her father, consumed by fear, struck her hands with the paddle, breaking her fingers one by one. As each of her fingers fell into the icy water, they transformed into the creatures of the sea. Her thumbs became the great whales, her fingers the seals and walruses. Finally, Sedna sank beneath the waves, swallowed by the cold, dark depths. Her father, haunted by his actions, was claimed by the storm, his kayak lost to the angry waters. But Sedna did not perish. In the ocean's depths, her sorrow and rage transformed her into a powerful spirit. She became the mother of the sea, her severed fingers now the marine creatures that filled its waters. She ruled over all life in the ocean, from the smallest fish to the great whales, and her power was unmatched. The Inuit people soon learned of Sedna's transformation. They understood that she held the key to their survival, for the creatures of the sea were her children, and she alone decided whether they would thrive or withhold their bounty. When hunters ventured out to fish or hunt seals, they sang prayers to Sedna, offering gifts and combing the water as if tending to her hair, a gesture of respect. They knew that if they angered her, she could summon storms, wreck their kayaks, or deny them the harvest they needed to survive. But if they honored her, she would grant them abundance, filling their nets and feeding their families. This is the story of Sedna, the mother of the sea. It is a tale of betrayal, transformation, and the delicate balance between life and nature. It reminds us of the power of the natural world and the importance of living with respect and gratitude for the spirits that sustain us.